Welcome to another episode of Dancing with the Bards. My name is Ian, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brooke and Will.
Hey!
And our guest for this month is Kira.
Howdy.
If you ever walked into a gaming store in the last 6 years, chances are good you've seen our game this month on a shelf, surrounded by 4 to 5 different expansions. Designed by Paul Peterson and published by Alderock Entertainment Group in 2012, Smash Up is a self-described shuffle-building card game where 2 to 4 players combine 2 different 20-card faction decks to raid bases for points. Each faction specializes in a particular playstyle, and some may work better together than others. The first player to 15 points is the winner. With 17 different expansions for the game and multiple booster packs, a full set can have over 4,000 faction combinations. With that summary out of the way, we can start our review with number of players. So, number of players. I gave this a 2. The game is 2 to 4 players. It has a rule in the game where the number of bases that you have out is equal to 1 more than the number of players in the game. And I think this really could go up to like 5 to 6 players if that rule wasn't there. Because having like 7 bases out at a time would be crazy.
I mean, you could always home it as like up to 5 bases, and then you stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the way we've done it in the past, because I've played this game countless times, is we've done it when we've had like less expansions, with up to like 7 or 8 players, and we've played it both ways with keeping the same amount of bases and also just having +1 for the amount of players' bases. It's too much with all the bases. So I think, if someone were to homebrew or like house rule it in, you can have as many players as the decks that you have allow you to, but increase the victory point threshold.
I gave it a 3 for players. It went well. I mean, I didn't find a problem with the number of players around the table. I would get confused with more than 4 players, so I agree with the box.
Yeah, like you were saying, I think this game sets a healthy limitation on the number of players. I also gave it a 3. I think when you start adding more players to something like this, I could see it getting out of hand very, very fast.
Sorry, I should also add, I gave it a 3.
That's fair. I guess I'm just a little biased because most of the times I've ever played this was with a larger group of people. It was meant to be like a time killer game. So I'm used to wanting to play this with more than 4 people.
Was this one of your Denny's
games? This was in the Denny's rotation.
Yeah. Denny's and Gambit.
Yeah.
In the heyday of our gaming group in Danbury, we had a place to go. And when they shut down, like when they closed their doors for the night, everyone would pretty much everyone would move over to Denny's because Denny's is 24 hours, or at least was at the time. Ours is no longer 24 hours. But
Thanks,
then they would, gosh darn it, COVID taking everything away from us.
COVID made everything just a little bit worse.
So we would go there and play until like 2 a.m. So this is one of the games that they played at the end of the night when I cannot imagine comprehending this. Like, I cannot imagine learning this new at 2 a.m.
And probably not entirely sober. It wasn't just our Gambit group, by the way. It was, our college gaming club also met on Thursday nights and would end at the same time that Gambit closed. So after Gambit had closed, they would go over to the Denny's, and the college group would also go over to the Denny's at the same time. So we had like 2 groups merge at that point. Because we all half knew each other.
Yeah, just enough to play games together.
There was also like other groups that we weren't really part of that would also go to Denny's after Gambit closed. So we would just take over that.
There's a little dining room on the
half
side.
The Denny's was ours.
Yeah, half the Denny's was ours, and much. Actually, no, the waitresses usually liked us. We were pretty good about keeping it to buying like something on the hour.
And we tipped well.
Yeah.
Yes. We
just
weren't that bad.
To set the stage for some people when he's talking about playing this.
We don't talk much about like how we met and everything.
Yeah, no, we should do that sometime. Maybe for a bump for the channel. Beside the point, though.
Yeah.
How do we feel about inclusivity?
I gave it a 3 for inclusivity.
Okay.
I feel like the rules are pretty easy to catch up on. The text isn't... I guess there are some points where, I mean, that really goes more to comprehension, but where it could be confusing. on those regards, but there's not a lot in here that makes it hard for people to grasp anything here. There's no issues with color blindness. The text is all pretty focused on the center of the sheet, and the rules seem easy enough for everyone to catch up to. It's one of the games that was in our rotation because just about everyone could play it for those days in Gambit.
For inclusivity, I gave it a 2. My thing with it was some of the fonts that they used, especially for the elf deck that I had. The main font that they had at the top, like for the card name, was kind of hard to read, and just the colors was like just laid on the background was like distracting. It was hard to read. It wasn't. I really don't know how else to describe how it was hard to read, but I noted how for people with dyslexia it could be difficult with certain fonts.
It is.
Okay. I was not wrong.
Just
then.
putting that out there.
Okay.
At least for me, it is.
Yeah. And I did point this out while we were playing the game. I don't know if I would put this under inclusivity or like random comments, but in a lot of the cards, the pronouns that they used like he and she a lot, where they could have just used they.
Yeah, and you even said it, like, when we were streaming, check the YouTube, I'm actually editing the videos now. She had mentioned that, like, it bogs down the reading.
Yes.
So it doesn't help at all. It actually, using they, them, even just so you could take out an extra word.
Yeah. Because on those cards where they had a lot of text that also had the she and him, the text got smaller, so it would be even more difficult for someone to read.
Yeah, I gave it a 1.5 for similar reasons. When you brought that up, it made a lot of sense. I think just the sheer amount of cards. Again, we had most of the expansions. Do we have all of them, or most?
Not all of
them. All of them anymore.
Okay.
This game used to have all of them.
Okay,
Yes.
so the new ones have come out. Either way, it was a lot of cards and a lot of rules. And a lot of, like, let me look at your hand, but, like, maybe not. So, like, just, it was, like, you've played this a whole bunch, and you had a card that was, like, pick a card from someone else's hand, and you didn't see that it said randomly.
Yeah.
So there's so much text on it. But that's just me. I have an issue with that.
I actually thought the cards were pretty digestible. I gave it a 3.
Okay.
I thought this was a relatively easy game. But I'll talk more about that in comprehension.
Well,
Next
go
up.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go for it, man.
Speaking
Yeah.
of that, this is one of the first games that I can confidently say I think I got it from the start, and that's a rare thing here on the Bards. I'm going to use my experience with that for my grading going forward. If I can get it, I think anyone can get this game.
And you even won.
Yeah!
Congratulations.
I know! That's never happened.
On comprehension, I had given this a 2. I felt that with all the clashing rules like we had talked about before, it could kind of bog itself down. We played with the core game has 8 factions, and those are just like the zombies, the tricksters, very basic things, pirates. The expansions, like with the Cthulhu one, where I was alone here playing with the madness cards, the Munchkin expansions, which had all of the
Treasure cards.
Yeah,
treasure
monster,
cards,
treasure.
that really bogs it down a lot more. But even so, all the conflicting rules and everything, and it even says in the rules, if it looks like it's going to break the rules, go by the card text, not the rules of the game. That can be tricky.
I think that was one of the things that I like.
You know, I gave it a 1 on comprehension. I was, like, struggling the whole way through. As soon as I thought I got it, then talents could be used whenever. Like, it was not clicking over here.
I gave it a 3. I was trying to think back to when, like, I first learned how to play Smash Up, which is when we only had the base game. And it was really easy to pick up, but that's because it was simpler. It didn't add all the new mechanics like madness and treasure. So that's why. But I would probably bring that down to like a 1.5.
For
now,
like the version
thinking
we're
about
playing.
it now, yeah.
Okay.
Going into availability for this, you can get this game at just about any game store. You can get it at Target. All of the expansions, with a couple exceptions that have been discontinued, like the Munchkins, are all available on their website on Alderac Entertainment Group. You can get it all there, including the booster packs too. I don't think there's any real problem getting a hold of this.
Yeah, I gave it a 3. Same thing. You hit it on the head. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also gave it a 3. Also because, not just, because you can find it almost anywhere, but because it's relatively affordable for, like, what you get for base game and expansion, all that. I think it's justifiably priced, and like I said, you can find it anywhere.
I will note real quick, if you're not willing to do an online purchase, it can be a little tiresome trying to track down all these expansions.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say.
I mean, if you want a specific expansion, let's be honest, in this day and age, you're going to the almighty Amazon. Like, it's you're going online if you want something specific and you don't want to just be surprised.
There was a time where you only got stuff at the game store when you went to the game store.
Yeah,
but I realize that those times are gone, and we're in a post-COVID world now, and everything is just brought to your doorstep.
But it's also like, when you go to the game store, I feel like those purchases are more spur of the moment. Like, if you wanted just an expansion, you say, I have the base game, you might go down to the shop to get an expansion, like, just for funsies. But, like, I don't see going, like, I'm only going there and buying something if they have the carnivorous plant one that I had, like...
Yeah, I've always experienced, like, when you get a... Like, I'm using DLC because I don't play board games like you people.
You're part of a board game podcast.
I know.
He's our subject that hasn't seen any of the stuff before. He's our new eyes.
I'm a guinea pig.
Exactly.
Our token gamer boy.
I didn't want to say it that way, but...
He's the control group.
There you go.
I actually like that a lot. No, but like in my experience with this sort of stuff, you usually don't actively seek out the expansions for something without the intent of, I'm going to get this expansion so that I can play with this expansion tonight. I've never met somebody that's like, I'm going to buy this expansion, and then 3 weeks from now, I'm going to try it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure every time we've gotten expansions we were already at the game store, and we were like, well, we might as well just get another expansion and play it tonight. Like, we did not go there with the intention of getting a smash-up expansion.
And I'm sure I'm going to make myself sound like a curmudgeon, but, like, it's more meaningful when you get it, when you're like, wow, that's the expansion I've been looking for. It happens to be on that shelf. Or for any real board game, when you go to... Cosmic Encounter was the first board game I ever bought, and it is my favorite board game, quite possibly because it was the first board game I ever bought for myself. Because I saw it in a game store after playing it there, and I'm like, I really want that.
And then you got it.
I did. I don't know. I feel like getting it all online these days just takes the fun out of it, but that's just me being way older than I actually am.
I agree. It takes some of the magic and the fun out of it.
You know, people used to say the same thing about books when Borders went out of business.
Oh, these kids on their Kindles.
Look, I'm just a penny pincher, so, like, I go online solely... I will go in a store, find a game I like, and then check if I can get it cheaper, because I am a teacher, I don't make enough, I can't just afford to drop games. So the only way I get games if I can find them on sale or used.
All right. I think we're set with our availability?
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to materials. I gave it a 2 for materials. Everything that you need is there, but it's kind of a mediocre quality. I think 1.5 would almost be, it's kind of teetering on the edge for me. It has everything you need. The art is kind of nice on the cards. It has a lot of stuff. It has all tokens with all special designs for the victory points. But there's not really a lot there. Unless you get the bigger box for holding everything, you don't have like all the dividers you need for all the expansions and everything. So it definitely has room for improvement.
That was something I didn't even think about. But yeah, what do you do with all the decks if you don't like start out with that big box?
You get a box from home.
Yes.
Sandwich bag time.
Before we got the big geeky box, we would just leave them all in the base game until we couldn't fit them in that box anymore. But then there was a lot of room left in that one. So if you'll open up the box and see there's all those foam dividers in there. I don't remember if it came with a couple or we bought more, but that's how we like cushioned the decks from like rolling around in there.
It does come with it. The foam dividers.
I gave it a 3. This was pretty, like, it hit all the boxes for me. The cards are beautiful. They have a way of organizing it in the bottom corner so it's easier because setup and breakdown is a goddamn nightmare. The box seems really sturdy. I know you bought this box separately, but even then, like, it's solid. And I think what really got me, because my pet peeve is with the little punch-out tokens, sometimes they don't leave enough bleed. So if you didn't watch the other episodes where I geek out about this, bleed is leaving a little extra color on the outside of a print so that whenever the die cut comes in, you don't have just like a random white splotch or whatever the background color splotch is. So they left enough bleed that all of the pieces came out nicely, which is something a lot of games forget. So.
I gave it a 3. I've had this for at least 6 years at this point, and it's survived, considering how we all know how board games get treated in my household.
I kind of took that into account, too. It's just got a little denting on the edges, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got character. But the cards are constructed really well. I appreciate how it's all, like, cardboard pieces. I don't really like plastic. Not gonna lie. Not good for the environment. I don't dig microplastics or, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's better for the environment. Do we know if we can get, like, replacement pieces off their website?
I didn't see any. I don't think you can.
I mean, if you buy more expansions, you don't really need to buy more because each expansion comes with more tokens.
Yeah, I feel like the cards are the real big thing in there to replace, and they wouldn't just sell replacement individual cards.
No.
It'd be nice, but no one's gotten on that.
Not everyone's
yeah.
Stonemaier.
Yeah. Yeah, so I gave it a 3.
So, how do we feel about setting this up? And I like to, can we motion to also saying breakdown on this? So it's setup and breakdown for this game?
Which is why I gave it a 2.
Same.
Oh, I gave it a 1. That was a nightmare. Because I had cards from your deck in mine.
I will say, as the person who did most of the cleanup for this and the setup, it wasn't that hard. The game slot has dividers so that I could see where each deck went in the box. They have icons on the bottom of each card to show which deck they belong to, with the exception of the Madness ones, but they're easy enough to find. Putting these back together it took me all of like 5 minutes to put all this away. I mean, with everyone helping me, obviously, but as long as you put away your own stuff and put it in piles so that it's all in the same pile, it isn't too difficult.
I gave it a 3. But that's probably because I've been playing it for so long. Setup and breakdown's always just been easy. Because, you have the dividers. There's, like you said, Ian, there's the icons on the card. It takes a little bit too long when you have more players, but ultimately, it's really not that bad. I've played games that have worse setup and breakdown. So.
I just hated sorting. That's all. I'm not a fan.
It's a definite complaint. It's why I gave it a 2, is because of that element where you have the cards mixed up in everyone else's decks. I've definitely seen copies of Smash Up, and I think even Larry's copy, where someone put the wrong cards in those piles, and you end up pulling one when you're halfway through, and you're like, well, where's my other card supposed to be? I counted to 20, which means one of my cards is in one of those decks. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, the breakdown was definitely a little bit more difficult than some of the other games we've covered, but it wasn't that bad. It could be worse. It could be a lot worse. What was
your score, out of curiosity?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say that. I gave it dos.
Yeah.
So, rate of play? I thought it went well. That I gave it 3-4. I never was on the edge of my seat waiting or felt like I didn't have enough time to do something. Like, it paced well.
I ended up giving this one a 2. I feel like it started to get difficult to predict where things were going to happen and the length of certain turns, especially towards the end for me. I had things planned out, and I thought they'd take a lot longer than they ended up taking. But that's also probably just because I'm new.
Not necessarily. I gave it a 2 for rate of play too. It definitely depends upon what decks you're playing. It depends upon what decks other people are playing. The turns aren't really consistent, even within the same game, depending upon what people have in their hand, what decks are out. Usually one or two people are constantly stopping what they're doing to look to see how many points are in each thing. It can slow things down pretty quick, and if you're not familiar with the game, it could bog things down a bit, especially, I think.
I gave it a 2. As someone who has the attention span of a rock, courtesy of TikTok, towards late and end game, it was really hard for me to stay focused in between my turns. There was just so much going so much going on. There was too much, it was busy, and I don't know. It wasn't, there wasn't enough content to do during my turn for me to take the entire time in between turns to think out what I was doing next. Because I would think out, I'm going to play this minion in this action, and then I'm like, okay, I already know what I'm doing now. I'm just going to sit here and...
Yeah, that's kind of the boat I was in as well, where I would plan stuff out, and I'd think, all right, well, this is going to take me at least 2 turns to get through it. And then once I start actually getting through the actions, I'm like, I can do this all in one turn.
Yeah.
And my turn is done. Yeah.
See, I'm always making contingency plans because I'm convinced someone will steal my cards. So I had 3 plans going at one time. So I needed this a little.
It's the way you have to play sometimes. But if you overthink it, you end up stretching yourself too thin, too.
I mean, I picked it up towards the end. I started at 2, and by the end of the game,
I
had
overthink.
10.
I overthink it every time. I don't do as well in this game because of that. So, going into price, I gave this a 2, and I will say the base game is only $35, brand new. But if you want to have more than 8 factions, there's a lot of expansions, and each one starts to build up in price over time. They're like $20 to $25 each. And that means with 17 different expansions, you're spending a lot of money.
I don't think anyone should buy all the expansions ever. This is enough. And this has, I feel too many. There's a lot of expansions.
Yeah. I gave it a 2 for different reasons, I suppose. Base game is $35 and you get 8 factions, right? But there's no other, because it's even amount, guarantee you're going to want to play this game with the max amount of people. And that doesn't really allow for as much variation. And I feel for $35, I don't know. Maybe I just don't know how to word what I'm thinking. But once you add on an expansion, you only really need like 1 or maybe 2. Then I feel like that's when you get full value, because then you have the option to get up to, you know, hundreds or thousands of different deck combinations.
Okay, so you're saying that in your head, you're adding on the cost of 2 expansions onto the base price because you feel like that should be your goal so that you have more variation?
Yes.
Okay. So that's why you gave it a 2, because you have to buy the expansions to make it an optimal play.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I got you. I gave it a 3 because I thought of it in the opposite way. I said, $35 for a base game? That's one of the cheaper games we've covered on this podcast. And then, the expansions, those aren't bad compared to some of the expansions we've done before. I still think there are too many expansions and you shouldn't buy them all. So just going off of 1 or 2 of them, that's not bad.
Yeah, don't do what we did and buy every expansion pack that was available at the time.
Or just don't put them in the same box so you feel like you have to use them.
Yeah.
That was my same logic as well. I was pretty surprised to see the base game so inexpensive on here. I gave it a 3. And then, $25 per expansion, $10 for boosters. That's really good.
That's like Cards Against Humanity level.
Yeah.
I will add, one thing that I could be remembering this wrong. Larry will probably correct me. That before we bought the big geeky box, we were debating on buying just one of those plain white cardboard, like, deck holders.
Yeah, the deck sleeves.
Because, like, yes, although this is Smash Up branded box and it's like a sturdy box and it's $45 and it only comes with 2 extra expansions. How much is one of those plain white cardboard deck holders?
Not $45.
Yeah. Like, you don't need the geeky box.
I would be curious to know how much Larry spent on this in total.
I don't think he'd ever tell you.
I don't think he would either.
I don't think so either. I
don't think he wants to remember.
I don't think he wants to remember either. Also, I don't remember the expansions being $25 when we bought them, although I might just be misremembering that.
Well, this is just a very, the most normal price. Usually on our little cheat sheets, Breaking the Magic here, we have cheat sheets. They're usually the median price.
I mean, we also got these 10 years ago at this point. Inflation might have caught up with us.
Yeah, I feel I think they were 15 or 20 when we bought them.
Yeah, that sounds like 10 years ago prices.
I will say, because I agree with what you said before on the price for this. If you were to get 2 expansions, which I think is an adequate amount to really get some variation going on this, and I think that's what I have for my copy too. I think I have 2 different expansions. To make it worthwhile to play, that's an $85 game. Because that's 35 plus 50. So something to keep in mind when you're looking to buy this.
If you're planning on buying it all at once and not
maybe
doing it all.
maybe
well,
that's just
2 expansions.
Well,
maybe
but
that's
I'm
just
saying,
from my point of view, because Larry and I end up buying games that are $80, $120, upwards of that.
Well, yeah, but those those games come with minis. They come
and
these are just cards.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's time we go into extras, because that's what this game is known for, is extras.
Yes.
I gave this a 1 for extras, and it's like Brooke said, it's too many. There's too many extra things. There's extra large boxes, which. Fine, I guess. It's needed because you have so many expansions. But why? Why do you need this much? Just let it die. Let Smash Up die. Do what they've done with all these other board games.
Pump out the content.
And just remake it again.
How would you re-release a game like this?
Get a new illustrator.
Smash Up Taylor's version.
Cosmic Encounter's done it 3 times.
Fancy boxes. Make a fancy wooden box for a special edition. I gave it a 1.5 only because you brought up that there are some fan-made content. So
I think we have one of those expansions, 1 or 2. I don't remember exactly which ones they were, but...
The amount of extras are too damn high, but the fact that some of those are made by people who love the game gives them that half point.
Yes. I gave it a 3 just based on the amount of extras there are. You will not run out of expansions with Smash Up. I mean, you could, potentially, but why would you do that?
There's another one coming out in like a month. I think
Wait,
by the
really?
end of this month.
Do we know what it is?
I don't. Did I write it? July 14th
Okay, so July 14th, which
will
Breaking
be
the
after
Magic,
this comes out.
Breaking the Magic again, which is in like a week.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, this is your job now. You're going to edit in this space what it is.
We miss you. Please be on the podcast with us.
Yeah, please come back, Chris.
He's going to leave that in just to spite you.
I don't blame him.
The expansion these goobers were trying to remember was called Excellent Movies, Dudes, which is yet to be released from what my brief search has afforded me. It's a 1980s-themed expansion including 4 new factions, action heroes, backtimers, extramorphs, and wraith rustlers, and 8 new bases. The current expected release date is scheduled for August 25th, 2023. You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. Enjoyment.
Oh, solid 3. This is a fun game.
I'm not playing this again. 1.
I gave it a 3. I've played this countless times before, and I'll play it countless times again. I always have fun.
I gave it a 2. I mostly enjoy the game. I wouldn't play it all the time. But it's a fun thing to take out every once in a while with a group of people when you have time to kill.
Well, yeah, and that's how you described it on the stream, was like a good time killer game. I think that that's really where this game excels at, is it's a time killer. You know, you don't have to be super, focused on it. But
Well, see, that was my problem. Like, my goal when I'm playing any board game is hanging out with my friends. I had to spend the whole time counting to 22 because I was trying to figure out when different things would pop on the bases so I could get points, and counting the points I had and rereading things to make sure that I understood what was going on. I was so in my head the whole time I couldn't chat and have fun, which is usually what I do, but that's why I'm the party bard and I like the party games. I just want to be able to hang out with my friends. And I was hanging out with the cards, not my friends.
yeah, I would expect this game to have a little bit more room for socialization.
I mean, we are also doing this in a very fast-paced setting because we're streaming and stuff. I will say that you can do that with this game, and just as long as you're not playing with someone who's like, it's your turn. You can't play this game that way.
I think most people would be able to, and that's why it's great that we're all doing this and all putting our own scores down, because I wouldn't be able to. I just know based on what I've played here and kind of remembering the first time I played, because I wasn't sure at first. For me, this is just a little too much. With the ADHD and the dyslexia, it's too much for my brain to handle and also worry about socializing on top of it. I would just have to, head down in cards.
Oh yeah, and I don't blame you for that. I get where you're coming from for sure. That's why I only gave it a 2 and not a 3. Because that pacing is just a little off. But going into recommendation, though, I did give this a 3 for recommendation. I think it's a game that most people should have in their rotation, if only just for a fun thing to do with people you just met. Something like this is a lot of fun for a convention.
I gave this a 3 as well. I think this is a game that is great for beginners. It's good for people who've been playing games for 40 or more years. I don't know. I mean, I've played this with my little brothers before, and they really enjoyed it. This is definitely a game that I feel that everyone should have in their collection.
I gave it a 2, even though I'm giving it a hard time. I think most people would really enjoy this game. I just wouldn't suggest it for people like me.
Yeah, I gave this game a 2 as well. I don't necessarily think every single person in the world should have this, but at least one person in your friend group should have it. And I think it's a happy medium.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's always that one person that has all the expansions. And then you have someone like me who has 2 and no one wants to play their game. Just real quick, I did mention conventions. Some conventions do actually do tournaments for these, so something to keep an eye out for if you're ever at like a small gaming convention. They do Smash Up tournaments. Like, sometimes like official ones even. Yeah. This game has a surprisingly large community. Not something we see a lot for board games, but for this one, yeah.
And I see on my little cheat sheet that certain factions are banned from tournaments. And there's a drafting phase where players can ban a faction from that game, and then afterwards, players pick from what's left. And I remember during the stream, I think, Ian, you said that the Munchkin expansions are banned from tournament play.
The Geek one is. I don't know if the Munchkin ones are.
Oh. Yeah, the Geek one. I had Geek in my deck. It's pretty... it can be pretty broken depending on the combination you get.
Yeah, and certain combinations I think were banned too. Because it's not really a balanced game.
Oh, no.
Nothing, unless you randomize everything, that's the only way to make it really fair. That's the reason Larry had said he doesn't like this, is if you know what factions you're getting and you get to choose what factions you're taking, you have a significant advantage over everyone else.
Yeah.
I said earlier, it felt like when you have a game in beta where it's like, it's so many things are broken, but they just say, roll with it, see what happens, we'll fix them later. And in this case, they just never went back and tried to level things out. They just said, beta's fine enough, release.
And I kind of think that's the fun of it. That's supposed to be.
Yeah,
the appeal.
I think that's...
For you guys, yeah. For me, it drives me nutty.
Yeah.
I've always had the most fun playing Smash Up when I've had, like, obscenely broken combinations.
Or even playing against someone with a really broken combination.
Yeah.
God damn it. And that's just the kind of it.
I mean, yeah, I think balance would require the players to have actual skill.
Fair.
And I don't know.
Going into replay value, if we're all set on recommendation.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I give this a 2 for replay value. I think it's good for what it is. It does cap out at a certain point with all the expansions as far as value for what you're doing with it. Don't buy all the expansions. Buy like a few. Maybe pick one up if you're ever at a game store and you see one there that you really like. You don't need all of them. You don't need the Cthulhu one. You don't need the Munchkin one. They just kind of overcomplicate things a little bit, in my opinion.
Or if you get them, just don't keep them in the same box so you feel like you have to use them.
Mm-hmm.
I gave it a 2. As much as I enjoy this game and have been raving about it, there's a reason why I haven't played it in however many years. After replaying it over and over and over again, it's boring. You get tired. People choose the same decks because they know their combination is broken, and it just gets, like, it takes all the fun out of it after a while.
Yeah. I feel like this game, I haven't, replayed it that much. This is the first or second time playing this game. I think it's the second time I've played this game. I think given the right amount of expansions, I feel like this would be a very good replayable game. I don't know what that exact amount is. Maybe get a little bit of algebra in here, see if we can figure it out.
Steven,
a little
where
y
are
equals
you?
mx plus b.
There's a point where it plateaus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need Steven here to figure the math out.
I don't know if I said, I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2 for replay value. I can see where you made the points. I don't need to say anything. It's a 2. Similar reasons.
All right, moving on.
Since we may have stolen some of your thunder on that, do you want to start us off with our sliding scale?
Oh, you didn't steal any thunder. You just put it better than I ever could. I gave an innovative 2. I felt like it bogged a little bit, so I couldn't give it a 3. I think this is a really cool concept. I haven't seen a lot of games with this concept. My breadth of board games is not huge, though, but I gave it a 2. It just bogs a little bit, so I couldn't say that it was like a perfect 3. Like, whoa, this is something I've never seen before. Didn't move smooth enough for that. I
actually went in the other direction for this. I give it a classic 2. there's a lot of quote unquote deck builders, which this isn't really a deck builder, but it likes to pretend to be one. That's why they called it a shuffle builder in the description on its site, where it's just it has almost elements of like a party game to it.
This
but
is too complicated for a party game, my
Well,
friends.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I just mean to say it has some of those elements where the setup and stuff is very simple, but and especially with the base factions, it feels more that way. Less so with the treasure and the monsters and all that. But it doesn't really stand out much as far as like a board game does. It has a lot of classic elements, but doesn't really do a lot to make itself stand among the crowd. It really is just kind of middle of the road for a classic board game for me.
I rated it right in the middle between classic and innovative. It, like you said, it doesn't really stand out more than like your typical classic card-based board game. But the innovation comes in with the player and how you build your deck, like which two factions you choose. It's really all I have to say about that.
I gave it an innovative 1. I feel like it was trying to draw from a lot of different things, like you were saying, Ian. It does have sort of that kind of party game vibe while being too complicated for a party game. I think you had mentioned like it's similar to like a deck builder.
A shuffle builder. It's a shuffle builder.
Well, that's kind of
an engine builder. Will
everything you say, I say, but a little bit worse. And there's no birds in this. We just established that. So it can't be an engine builder.
See the title of our most recent episode.
Or the one right before this.
Yeah. For the same reasons, I gave it a simple 2. It's not... I guess maybe I'm used to more complicated board games in this regard. It's not very difficult for me, but once again, it doesn't really do anything to stand out for itself. So I feel like a simple 2 is a good middle ground for it.
I also gave it a simple 2 for the very same reason.
I gave it a complex 1. I felt like it was trying to have too many elements to it, like trying to count everything up. The amount of tokens you get for first, second, and third prize. Then it's all the cards and reading each individually. Then it's saying whatever the cards say goes. If it trumps one of the rules, it trumps one of the rules. It just made it needlessly complicated. It felt like they didn't go back and revise this game. They just put out their first version.
That would be a 3, correct?
A 1, but you can just tell it's a simple 3. That's fine. If you want it to be a 3, it could be a 3. It's just for your notes.
We're going over the little slidey scales on the bottom.
So that would be a simple 1. I don't know.
Yeah, no problem.
So did you think it was simple in a good way or a bad way?
I mean, I would probably also rate this like in the middle between simple and complex, because while the idea, like the core idea of the game is simple, but in practice it's very complex, especially with all the expansions, like the madness, the treasures, the monsters, and especially late game. It like everything gets so bogged down. There's too much to look at. So much is going on, and it's like overwhelming. And that's the complex part. But simple is because the gameplay itself is simple.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Perfectly fair.
Any last comments?
This is a nice palate cleanser board game. That's all I'll say on that. If you're into like board games in general, this is a nice thing to have to kind of get the taste of like Twilight Imperium out of your mouth. If you're not used to board games, this may not be something that is as interesting for you.
I just wrote in all capitals, Lord above, because it was a little frustrating for me. So I just used my normal expletives.
All right, so final scores then. I give this a 30 out of 42.
I gave mine a 28 out of 42.
I gave mine a 32 out of 42.
I
Giving
gave it a
us-
32. Oh, sorry.
Giving us an average score of a 30.5.
Which is pretty much right where this game should be, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a passing grade.
Yeah. I think I said it towards the beginning. This is a game where either you like it or you don't.
Nothing to really write home about.
Yeah. Everyone forms an opinion of this pretty much the first time they play it, I think. And that's kind of how they feel forever. It's not one of those games. If you don't like it, it's never going to change your mind. It's only going to get worse. Wasn't that a smashing good time? Before we sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. The Bards will be running a summer camp throughout August. Join us on our Twitch channel for one-shots, party games, and mini painting at twitch.tv/withbards. You can also find us at Twitter at dancewithbards, on Mastodon at bards@crater.gg, or join our Discord to get updates on events and just hang out with us. If you want to get in touch, you can email us at dancingwiththebards@gmail.com.
If you would like to play the party games, I would ask that you join the Discord, though. Just for ease.
Please join the Discord. We
It
really
was
like
fun.
to hear from all of you. And
Our
it's the best way to do it.
Discord is currently invite only, so if you know somebody in the Discord, ask them for an invite.
There are invites on all of our socials
Yeah.
for this.
Oh, fantastic.
We did this for us.
We are also on Blue Sky.
Woo!
Yes, so we are officially on Blue Sky, although I know not everyone is yet. It's still a little exclusive.
Come join us.
Yeah,
Find
if you're
someone
on
who
there,
can
find
help
us,
and
'cause
join us.
I like it a lot more than Twitter. See you at camp.
Woo!
Woo!
See ya!